but they are not in business
Then
themselves.
they've never started a business.
Telling you about filmmaking, they've never attempted.
And even look at the videos, like which film.
What filmmaking are you talking about? So Gaetano,
Yes.
let me ask you a question.
Ask.
If someone came to you and said that they would like to teach you something, but they have never attempted that thing,
Okay.
and then someone else says that they have done this before and they would like to teach you, who would you trust more?
The person who's done it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So today's topic from us here at Rolling Lens is those who
don't do
teach. Yeah. So there is this saying that those who can do, those who can do, and those who can't teach.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about where does this saying come from, or is it really a worthwhile saying? Is it true in this day and age?
The person who said this is called George Bradshaw. He said this in 1905. He said that those who can do, because if you can, you do it, and those who can't teach. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, because it's always easy to, when you think of a football match, it's always easy to stand, and say, angefanya hivi, and you should have done this way, you should have scored that way.
Yeah.
So there are many people who watch football, they think they understand football. They can say a good strategy is if you put this player here.
Yeah.
But you see, they don't do. So they're teaching, they are presuming to teach, but it's easy for them to think they can teach because they actually don't do. So that's where that statement comes from. Yeah.
Are we saying that teachers are not important?
No. That's not what you're saying. Because now that statement over the past 100 or so years has been used in many ways to disparage teachers and say you don't need these people in society. And teaching as a profession has been looked at as those who, let's say, couldn't become an astronaut. So you end up becoming a physics teacher. Or you couldn't become a chemical engineer, so you end up teaching chemistry. But that's not what you're saying.
No.
In fact, if you've watched our previous videos, we are
encouraging people to actually teaching.
Yeah, and we are considering ourselves teachers because we're talking about stuff that we know. So that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is there's so many people who can't do but want to teach others, and yet they've never done it.
So they take it as something that they're trying to hide themselves and their weaknesses behind teaching, but they actually are not even are not experts in what they're talking about.
They're not experts.
And this
is and some of them are not even like thinking, let me mess up things by teaching. No. They read a book on how to become a millionaire, and they
read from a millionaire
and now they're telling you this is how you become a millionaire. But they themselves are not millionaires. So there are those people who are, you can say it's almost like they think they're experts because they've read about stuff or they've watched videos about how to do it when they've never actually done it. And especially in this space where it's about storytelling and your business or whatever thing it is, even in whatever industry you're in, the idea is to move people from simply teaching or sharing this is how this thing is done when they've never actually done it. In our previous videos, we've encouraged people to
teach.
Yes, so that's where that comes from, that those who don't do teach.
I think could be the education system that we are in right now, where, you know, some people just, you know, how teachers are chosen isn't the way that they were chosen in the olden days, where someone who was a teacher was actually someone who was doing that thing. There was something called apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship, yes.
Or
You're talking about in the older days, you mean before classrooms as we know.
Classrooms, yeah, and in the systems.
Formal education.
Before formal education. There used to be teachers. And these teachers were highly valued. And it's because they knew what they were talking about, because they were actually doing what they were teaching. So it was called apprenticeship, or maybe in other words, it would have been called discipleship. People might think that's just a term in the Bible, but it's a word that
student.
Yes, it's a student,
a follower.
So someone you're following someone who's actually
linked to doing.
Yes, it was actually linked to doing every time. So for us here today, it's just to try and encourage us to go back to rethink how we look at teaching others.
A question then comes up: why does this happen? Why is it that whether there are so many colleges teaching people, you know, you pay 2,000 shillings and that course teaches you to program, it teaches you animation, and it teaches you video editing and photography, which if you are creative, you know, there's no way one person can teach you all of those things and call themselves experts. Or
actually, it's something that is also happening, not just in classes. Because again, I don't want to say that teachers are not important. They are important, as we said in the previous videos. But again, we're just trying to encourage people to teach and do. We also have the same problem in the social media area, where you see many people maybe telling you how to scale your business or how to, but they're not in business themselves.
Then they've never started a business.
Telling you about filmmaking, they've never attempted.
Even look at the videos, like which film?
What filmmaking are you talking about? You know, because you
don't
do it. You've not even attempted. And we're not saying you have to be a complete expert and you have to be the top of the top to be a teacher, but you've never even attempted to do something. You know, a chemistry teacher who doesn't know how to use a beaker in class, how will they teach chemistry? You know, it will be
so what you're saying is there's a disconnect between theory and practice. So this happens where there's that disconnect between theory and practice. My own experience in chemistry, many people fear chemistry, but interestingly for me, in the sciences, in the school I was in, we had to take the 3 sciences. They were compulsory. And I thought I would do well in physics. I thought I'd do better in biology, but I actually did better in chemistry compared to the 3 sciences. And part of the reason for that is the teacher that I had, Mr. Rotich, he used to ask us questions that were seemed like they were outside of the curriculum. He'd be like, when you put your clothes outside, why do your white shirts look whiter
on the outside rather than
when you dry them outside in the sunlight? It seems like a very normal question, but when you go to chemistry, I've forgotten the particulars, but it has to do with something to do with chlorine and how oxidation happens. So when white shirts, after you've washed them, they're outside, oxidation happens. And I don't know the particulars. You can write in the comments. But at the time, I remember him making what seemed like theory in the class actually work practically. And some of these things I used to date. I remember part of organic chemistry, him saying the way oils are dissolved is using acids. So that's why sometimes when you're cleaning your dishes, you need soap. That's why sometimes when you're cleaning your clothes, you add vinegar. So you see, these things, they stopped being theory, but he made it practical. And now that makes a good teacher, because he's not just giving you theory, oh, acids do this. It actually comes to life. I think the other reason, which perhaps is a good reason or a valid reason for why some people who teach are not actually doing,
is probably the fact that they have done it already, and now they have enough experience. Maybe they've stopped doing what they used to do, and now they are passing on
their knowledge and experience.
Checking out the last video that we had. And so we are not talking about that kind of person. So you might think we're saying you only have to be teaching while you're doing, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying it's better to be someone who's done it or doing it and teaching in the process. And if you checked out our last video, we're saying as you learn, teach. Not saying you have to be a grade 10, kind of teacher, yet your knowledge is at grade 2. Teach your grade 2 knowledge as you improve.
As you graduate to And also the other thing about that is there are some industries where the people who are doing the thing don't have the time to teach it until when they stop. Because if they, and I think that's where that phrase comes from, that those who can do. There are jobs where either you're a surgeon or whatever, a highly skilled surgeon. There are people's lives on the line constantly. He can't take 10 hours or to go and teach a class when there's someone
dying
on the bed of surgery, right? But once he does it long enough and he has an apprentice next to him who can start taking up some of his work, he can now be in a position where he doesn't have to do it. And now he can teach you how he used to do surgery. So still, even then, he's not actively doing, but as you said, he already did it in the past, because when he was doing it, there was no space to
sit in a classroom and
teach. And sometimes we see things in CIA and whatever, who, when they were doing their thing, the operation, they couldn't talk about it. But now that they're out of that situation, they can now talk about it. So there's two solutions to this. First thing is that you do. Have things that you're doing. Have things that you become skilled at. Do until you become an expert on something. And then as you're doing it, now the second part is you can now actually teach what you are already doing. But if you start teaching and you're not doing, then you have the cart before the horse.
It's a sad thing when you see even people who are scammers out there right now, creating all these classes and such things, yet they have never done those things. And that is the world that we are living in right now. Because people think that teaching is the easy way out. People are on social media thinking that teaching is the
It's
easy
the
way
shortcut.
out.
Because they
Shortcut.
see gaining experience, there's no faking experience.
Yeah.
You can't fake experience. But it's easy to fake being an expert by using a bunch of big words. So all you're saying is, you know, look out for people, and this comes to even people who do offer services or whatever. You look at what they've done.
Yeah.
This is why portfolios are important. It's to say, do these people know what they're talking
What
about?
they're talking about.
Yes, a lot of scammers have a lot of big words. We are using generative AI and breakthrough technology, this, that. But you say them, okay, then which app have you built with all your knowledge. Of programming? And they're like, well, we actually haven't. You know, well, he's speaking out of fluff.
Yeah.
This is a scammer. Actually don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So do, and then teach what you're doing.
Yeah. So practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach.
Yeah.
All right. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Leave your questions below. If you want us to talk more about any of the things that we've talked about in the video, you can write it in the comments, and we will respond. So, yeah. Cheers.